devastatingly painful it is, it can leave you hurt, confused, demoralized, and uncertain about how to move forward, not to mention all the statistics that Debbie just gave you. And it's important not to make big decisions while you're in the throes of it. And if you want help working through your feelings so you can make healthy decisions about your marriage and your life, I can help. I invite you to take action today. Give me a call or send me an email to schedule your free, no obligation 5-star relationship call. You can reach me by email at Leslie, Lesli, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS, coaching, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com. Or you can give me a call at area code 919-924-0463. Again, that's 919-924-0463. And I want to get back to talking with Dr. Silber about this very, very important topic. So what is the third thing you discovered in this study?
Yeah, so the third discovery, and to me this was the most exciting, and what we learned was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal I mean going from the symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that completely rebuilt state of post-betrayal transformation where you rebuild yourself and your life after betrayal, you're going to go through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage, and we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. So healing is entirely predictable.
Okay,
and
that sounds good.
I'm happy to go through the stages. Yeah,
Please
it's great because there's truly a roadmap to healing from all of it.
Sounds good. So what's the first stage?
What we do within the PBT Institute, it's what all of our coaches are certified in. It's what's mapped out in Trust Again, and I'll give you sort of a boiled down version here. So stage 1 is like a setup stage, and this is before the betrayal. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what I saw with everyone, me too, was a real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and kind of neglecting and ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Well, if a table only has 2 legs, easy for that table to topple over, and that's us. Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day, the scariest of all of the stages. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So this is where you get the news, and you're shocked, you're traumatized right here. You've ignited the stress response. You're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You can't wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you that prevent chaos. Don't go here, trust this person, this is how life works. And in one earth-shattering moment, every rule you've ever known to be real and true isn't true anymore. It's the bottom is bottomed out, and the new bottom hasn't been formed yet. It's terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? Like that. Here's the trap, though. Stage 3, by far, hands down, is the place we get stuck, the most common. And here's why. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we start planting roots here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And then 4 things happen. The first thing is we start getting all these small self-benefits. We get our story. We get to be right. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to. We get someone to blame, So we plant deeper roots. Again, we're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And because we're here longer than we should be, the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. Again, we're not supposed to, but we don't know. Now, because these are the thoughts we're thinking, well, this is the energy we're putting out. Like energy attracts like energy. So now we're calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards us to confirm, yep, this is where you belong. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go, right here we resign ourselves. We're like, this is terrible, but I have to work, I have to raise my kids, whatever. So here's where we start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, whatever it is, to numb, avoid, and distract ourselves from what's so painful to feel or face. So think about it. We do this for a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can honestly see someone 20 years out of their betrayal and ask them, that emotional eating or that drinking, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy.
Right, yeah, they're going, no, that was 20 years ago. What are you talking about? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But all they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually does. And
mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because this is not very different from just regular, well, I don't know if I'll call it regular ordinary trauma. That's minimizing, and I don't mean to do that. But this idea that, our survival mechanism kicks in, we come up with these coping skills that get us through, and going back to visit whatever that traumatic event was, we don't want to do that. So we just kind of stay, mm-hmm. and we've created those habits that are functional to a point, but then, and I think you're going there, they get in the way.
Well, they keep us stuck in stage 3. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. And so if we're just stuck in our story, and also I have to say, we have a lot of people coming into the PBT Institute with therapy trauma. It could be a wonderful therapist, but if all you're doing is unpacking your story over and over and over again, if anything is going to glue you to stage 3, it's just going over it without coming up with something to do with it. And we see that all the time. And even so, that's only getting it on the emotional level, the mental level, and it hits us on every level. So every level has to be addressed. Anyway, if you're willing to let go of your story and everything that goes along with it, grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Mm-hmm. Right in that decision, you turn down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you've been creating in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, all your stuff's not there, it's not quite cozy yet, but it's going to be okay. That's what stage 4 feels like. But I found this so interesting. Think about it. If you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be in your new space. And what I found was if your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. Really common. And people say to me all the time, what the heck, I've had these friends, 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation, and friendships change all the time, right in this one spot. Very common. Anyway, when we're comfortable with this new space mentally, making it our new mental home, we move into the 5th most beautiful stage, and this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal, self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. We didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now we do. The mind is healing. We're making new rules, making new boundaries based on the road we just traveled. And we have a new worldview based on what we see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Well, and I love that because, that decision, because it really is a decision to say, okay, here is the new normal. And, and I get what you were saying from before, because of course, nobody, blames I shouldn't say nobody, I'm sure there are some people, but most of us are aware enough not to blame our partners for getting cancer or being killed in a car accident. I mean, we could wrap our heads around those tragedies and traumas, but when we're making a decision that, this is my new normal, and what do I want to do with it? That sounds so empowering.
Mm-hmm. It is very empowering, and that's where change begins. People think, most people think that change takes time. Change happens with a decision. Seeing the results of that change may take a while, but that decision is what creates that change, and it's what begins that transformation.
So when somebody is willing to do this and they get through to stage 5, I mean, I just wrote an article. I've been doing this whole series of bad marriage advice, and one of them is a version of time heals all wounds, which is the forgive and forget kind of thing. It's like, okay, stop. And we're never going to forget that betrayal, but how did you keep it from impacting, say, future relationships? Because you hear, all men are this or all women are this. I mean, we tend to, because we've been hurt, we tend to make these huge generalized statements and then make the new person in our life jump through all kinds of hoops based on what the last person did. So how do we really keep that from polluting our future?
Yeah, everything you said, that's stage 3 stuff. And that's somebody who has not done the work to move through it, because it is. Repeat betrayal, by the way, is a classic sign of an unhealed betrayal, because if you have not done the deliberate and intentional work to move through the stages, the only thing you can attract is more of the same. Because there's a profound lesson. It's not that the betrayal is your fault. It's your opportunity. There is a profound lesson that you need better boundaries in place. You are lovable, worthy, and deserving, whatever it is for you. Until and unless you get that, you're going to have opportunities in the form of people to teach you. So like when you say, you go into another relationship, and how do you not bring that in? You will bring that in if you're in stage 3, for sure. It's 100%, because the lesson isn't learned, the changes haven't happened. You show up differently. The person who is in that state of post-betrayal transformation, that stage 4, stage 5 person, is dramatically different. Betrayal lends itself to creating an entirely new identity. You leave behind everything that no longer serves, and you take with you all the parts you love. And a really simple way to look at this is, most people know Legos. I have 4 kids. They're grown now, but they used to love Legos. Now, imagine there was a Lego structure. Wasn't good. It was just there, right? And then let's say it was destroyed. It was knocked over. The pieces were all over the place. That's all, demolished. That's what betrayal does. But here's the thing. When you are moving through the stages 2 post-betrayal transformation, here's the opportunity where you look at all the Legos, every single Lego piece, and you're like, wait a second, you know what? I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. And you create something magnificent that never would have had an opportunity to be created had it not topple over. That's what stage 4 and stage 5 are all about. You don't experience that in stage 3.
So what helps? Because, as you talk about stage 3, I realize that that's where a lot of people get stuck. For a lot of different reasons. And maybe it's also going back to this, it's like, well, enough time has passed and I'm not, and time and distance, right? But basically that betrayal, is still climbing into bed with us every night, whether we know it or not. So what moves people from stage 3 to stage 4 and 5?
Yeah, it's deliberate and it's intentional, and it's very, it's still very action-oriented. Like stage 3 is action-oriented into doing your research around, what a cheater does and narcissism and all the, all that kind of thing. Stage 4 is still very action-oriented, but more towards your self-care. And a big, and it's about, what do I need to heal? Now, here's the thing. Healing needs to happen on every level because every level's been impacted, and most people don't do that. They only, if anything, heal at one level. Oh, I'll go speak to someone. But first of all, if that person isn't highly skilled in betrayal, it does way more harm than good. And this is why most people stay stuck in stage 3. But stage 4, there's also a grieving process. There's this